big thank you for everyone for coming this early in the morning. I know I'm ready to get started, so you guys?
Yeah. Let's do it. Awesome.
So I want to introduce the first speaker. We have Leon J. He is the co-founder of Coffee Monster, the popular co-working space, actually just down the street, so make sure you guys check it out while you're in town, as well as the CEO of Fusion HQ. So Leon, come on board.
So I'm going to talk today on why are you here, which is going to be a slightly philosophical take on the whole thing and get you really questioning things. I want you to think differently. If you want different results from what you're currently getting, you're going to need to start thinking very differently. So let's take a look at exactly why and how. So just to give a bit of a background, who am I? More philosophy here, but that's my past. I was actually a grave digger. I've had human shit thrown at me as part of one job. That was fun. Bunch of other stuff. Let's say it wasn't getting anywhere. Since then, I'm now author of Do Less Work, Make More Money, Coffee Monster, obviously. That's me speaking in China, over 1,000 people, travel around the world. Basically, I've been online for over 11 years. I've traveled around the world in that time and featured on the cover of Internet Marketing Magazine, which is a spot reserved for people who've done over 7 figures online. I've been involved in multiple 7- and 6-figure launches, and so during this time I've kind of learned a thing or two. And so that's what I want to share with you today, how to avoid making the same mistakes that I did in the first few years that I was online. So what can you learn to expect? Well, why you are probably asking the wrong questions. Most of you here, some of you I know, and I've been in the community. I've lived in Chiang Mai for 6 years now. So I've come and I've seen the repetitive questions that are being asked, and I find that they're the wrong ones. So let's figure out what are the right ones. Where to invest in your business. This is really, really critical. Again, a lot of people misdirect their energies. And then really the only 2 ways to automate a business, because again, I know many of you are looking for passive income, for more freedom, for more flexibility. The only way you can achieve that is through automation. Yet the number of people I speak to who have absolutely no plan about how to automate blows my mind. So let's get that clear from the very beginning. Okay, so the one question here, but if you make a lot of money, does that make you successful? Well, it depends on what your definition of success is, right? But again, this is getting clear for yourself. The first big myth here is that making a lot of money is going to suddenly make you happy or give you freedom. It doesn't. I can promise you. After having been there and done it, after having come from having nothing and having made a stack, I can assure you it does not bring you freedom, it does not bring you happiness, only for a very short time. So that's the first big myth, and of course there's heaps of studies that go around doing this. Yet, so many people are asking, how do I make money? Right? It's the wrong question. I'll explain why in a moment. Myth number 2, that there is one way to do it. So many of you keep looking at each other asking, how did you make money? Maybe that's the way I should make it. Wrong question. So what do these guys have in common? Well, apart from becoming some of the most wealthy men on the planet, not a lot. I mean, there's other similarities, but Donald Trump, how did he make his money? Majority in property, right? Bill Gates, selling software. Steve Jobs, selling hardware. Warren Buffett, investing. You see, you can make a stack of cash. There's multiple different ways of making money. That's the wrong question. If you're looking around at each other saying, how did you make that money? That may be right for that person, but it doesn't mean it's right for you. So again, it's the wrong question. There are so many different ways to make cash. Now, this, some of you may have seen the post that I on the Digital Nomad group about my comments around this topic, and somebody posted the hierarchy of needs. And it was actually an interesting point, because actually this is something you should be aware of, and that is the fact that if you're focusing on making money, you're focusing down here. Now, the false logic is that you need to focus here first before you can move to here. That's a false logic, right? You can focus towards here, because otherwise what happens is you get trapped here. You get trapped in the cycle of making money. You no longer have time, you no longer have the flexibility, and many people I know sell their souls to get to this point, but it's not necessary. You can ask the right questions and say, how can I provide value? How can I do what I love? How can I have passion in my life? And then ask the question how to monetize it, and then you can find the path that you want to go through this pyramid. So, 5 P's of priority. This is something that I just came up with recently on a bike ride. But what I realize is that the majority of people that I meet in the digital nomad community are asking the questions in the wrong order. And for me, this is the right order first. So, purpose, passion, people, place, and then profit. Now, that doesn't mean that any one of those isn't important, but if you ask the questions in the reverse order, then you get a very different set of answers as to what you should be doing, right? If you ask the questions in this order, then you have a much more fulfilling answer. So, you see, a lot of people I meet, they're asking, how can I make money quickly? How do I make money online? They're focused on the profit. Then they're figuring, where's the best place in the world? I'll travel around. Oh, is it Chiang Mai? Or is it Ho Chi Minh? Or is it Berlin? Or wherever, right? They're then focused on the place. Then they figure out, well, who's the people I'm meeting around me? Then they try and figure out what do I actually enjoy doing, and then finally, what's the purpose of my business? It's totally the wrong order. If you look at what your purpose is, what you really want to accomplish in this life, then figure out what your passions are so that you can know your place in your team, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Then you'll know who to attract, who are the people that you want around you, who are the people you need around you, who are the people that you want to influence with your business. Then you can figure out where is the best place to do that from. And then finally, you ask the question, how can I actually profit from this? Now, there's a lot of different examples on how to make money. So here's a good example, right? Google. Were they passionate about advertising? Yes or no? No, right? They didn't care about advertising. The founders didn't even think about advertising. They hadn't even figured out how they were going to make money. They just knew one thing. They wanted to change the world by making data accessible to everybody. They wanted to invent the world's best search engine. That's what they were passionate about, okay? Huge, huge difference in, and then afterwards they asked, how do we monetize it? You can monetize stuff so many different ways, through advertising, sponsorships, affiliate backends, selling video training courses, drop shipping physical products, selling your own physical products. Finding a way to monetize stuff is not the problem. It's everything else before it that is the real critical questions. And if you don't have passion, you're not going to be determined to see through to the end the struggles and the challenges that will arise in your business, which they will. But what happens is you then, once you reach those challenges, you don't have enough purpose in what you're doing, so then you jump ship and look for the next shiny object that promises you how to make money online. Okay? I've seen it again and again and again. And some of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, another example, just those of you who know me know I rarely wear shirts, but I wore a shirt for the occasion, simply because I wanted it to be part of the story. This shirt is made by Kyle Barraclough, who some of you will know. And Kyle's passion is in producing great-looking shirts. He wants people to look good and be able to travel and have flexibility. So this is actually a wool shirt, and it doesn't wrinkle. It doesn't smell. It's a really awesome shirt. So that's his passion. I don't care about shirts, and he's got me passionate about it. He's got me sharing his shirt with some of the top speakers around the world, which is giving him massive exposure. Why? Because he was passionate enough to create a really good quality product, and his passion was infectious to me. That means I'm now helping him for free of charge, just because I want to see him succeed, right? When you become passionate and have purpose, when you have passion and purpose around something, you will attract the right people. You will attract much higher quality people to be part of your team, and you will make things much easier. If you have no passion, if you have no purpose, you'll resort to hiring $2 or $3 an hour Filipinos to try and run your business. Do Google use $2, $3 an hour Filipinos? Not in the beginning, right? Get real. If you want to build a real business, build a real team. So, quick question, is your business, and again, there's a lot of business models out there, but you need to check, is it sustainable? Is it scalable? Can you systematize it? Is it profitable? Is it proven? And is it purposeful? Now, if you can answer yes to all of these questions, then your business model may well be a good one. If you have to say no to any of those questions, then you may want to think again, right? Because if it's not sustainable, and many of them are not, many of the business models and you've heard me, some of you speak about exactly which ones, but they're not sustainable because you are relying on third parties too much. You have no real control in your business for the long term, or they're just quick, short-term fads. And I've been in this business, like I say, too many years to see fads come and go. I've seen people make tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars every month in revenue to see it disappear overnight. It's a consistent pattern. So make sure that whatever you do, you don't choose a business model that fits that problem. Is it scalable? Can you grow it large enough to meet your financial goals? What are your financial goals? Be clear, because your business model will need to reflect the ability to achieve those. Can you systematize it? If you can't systematize it, you've created a job for yourself. Well done, congratulations, nice work. But it's a job for yourself. Don't feel too smug, right? So if you want to be able to actually grow this to the point where you can sell it, you can pass it on, you can move away, you can have real, true freedom and flexibility, it has to be systematizable. We'll talk about that in a moment. Can you make profit? Obvious. Is it proven? Tech startups in Silicon Valley, they don't want proven models, they want high returns through higher risk. Most of you guys want a proven model because you want a greater degree of certainty that you can actually eat at the end of the week. And yeah, enough said about purpose. So what do these guys have in common? So we have singer, actor, businessman, sports star. Did they all have a team? Yes or no? Yes. Did they have the team before or after they were successful? Before, right? Before. How many of you here have a solid team around you? Look around, not many, right? And when I say a solid team, I mean a solid team. The quality of your team will dictate how high you can go. You should write that down. The quality of your team will dictate how high you can go. Each of these guys started off with a lesser team when they began in the beginning, right? Yet they kept increasing their team. Now, did they increase their team before they were lifted up or after they got higher up? Right? It's always before. The team lifts these guys to the top. So always remember, look to build a solid team. So are you flatlining? Is this you? CEO, marketer, copywriter, video guy, graphics guy, content, accounts, cleaner? That's a flat line. Or are you doing this? Are you building a real business? So if we look at this model here, this contains all of the, well, it doesn't contain all, it contains many of the different roles that a business requires. Just some of them, right? So if you are alone, or there's just one or two of you, then you basically have to chunk all of this and share all of these responsibilities between one or two people. If you want to create real success in your business, you need to figure out each of these roles and then replace yourself by somebody who's better than you. That should be your primary focus. Either you find somebody else or you find a tool that can do the job for you and automate that process. So that's the only way you're ever going to, and eventually, and this is what I'm doing at the moment in my own business, is to replace myself until we get to the top, and then I replace myself. I replace myself out of my own business. Right, that's my objective. It's a very, very clear objective, and it's one that we are consciously working on all the time. Are you? Because if you're not, then you are probably flatlining. So the only two ways to automate anything is with either people or machines. Now, machines, in the case of most of our businesses, revolve around computers and software to program those machines to do what we want them to do, right? So the question is, can we find a really good tool or a piece of software that's actually able to do the job that we're currently doing and automate that process? For example, article submission. There's a bunch of article submission tools out there. You can sit down and manually do it, submit it. There's so many different systems out there that help us automate our business, and yet most of you are probably not investing into those. And if you are, make sure you're investing into the high quality ones, because again, the quality of your business will be determined by the quality of your tools and your team. The team, if you don't have one, then you are not replacing yourself. You are not creating automation for your tasks in each day. Right? It's as simple as that. You need to choose, and realize that that triangle needs to be replaced with either one of these two things. There's no other way that you can automate your business. There's no other way that you can create true freedom or flexibility with your time. Does that make sense? Okay, how am I doing on time, just out of curiosity? 5 minutes left. Cool. Okay, so I've actually gone much faster than I'd intended, which is good. But so this is a formula that I came up with some time ago to demonstrate the title of the book that you saw earlier, which was "Do Less Work, Make More Money." Because it sounds spammy, it sounds scammy, it sounds like there's a problem with it, yet that's what we're all here trying to do. So how can we understand how to do this in a more scientific way? So this is the formula. Basically, T plus T plus T multiplied by T equals R. And so our formula here starts with training. How many of you have invested in training? You bought courses, come to workshops, you're here right now, right? You've invested your time, if nothing else, into coming here for more training. Most of us are trained up like crazy. Training for the majority of us is not our problem. Team. If you're not investing in your team, then how are you creating leverage for your time? This is time here. So you cannot create a business without time. But you can get much better results, the final R there, you can get a much better result by having more time invested into a better training, a better team, and better tools. Now, the great thing about investing into a team is the fact that when you hire a team member or you partner with a team member, that they bring training with them, right? They bring time with them. You create an exponential level of growth in your business by expanding your team because they already bring some of this to the table with them. And the chances are they may even bring some tools too. So, you see, you can actually get far more leverage by investing in these areas often than you can by investing in training. But if you read every sales page on the internet, of course, they're trying to tell you the latest secret. They're trying to tell you the latest trick. And why? Because that's their business. We're marketers. And for a lot of us as marketers, we're information marketers. We sell information. That means we have to prioritize the training. Yet, if you actually look at any real business, you'll find that there's more emphasis, if anything, put on the team and the tools than there is on the training. Yet as individuals, most of you will be sitting there trying to do your entire business alone, following some blueprint that somebody sold on the internet, when actually they've got a team and the tools behind them and running the whole show. How do I know? Because I've worked on many of the big projects. Right? I know many of the guys doing it. And there's a tendency for people to jump to false conclusions or have false logic. And we see this expressed in the media a lot, when people's perception about reality is determined by small amounts of data that are given to them. They don't get the full picture, right? The media use this all the time to try and brainwash people by giving them small amounts of information. Well, what happens is, what we see is the big successes. And they focus on the big successes. They're the rarities, right? The Googles, the Facebooks, etc. They're the minority by a vast majority. And even when you look at those individual businesses, what you find is that they were still built around having a solid team and having solid tools. And often that there was a lot bigger process before they became successful. So this is what I really encourage you guys to do, is to be very honest with yourself. What are you trying to do? I asked the question at the beginning, why are you here? Why Chiang Mai? Why in this room? Like, what is your objective? And is your objective really in alignment with where you want to go for the future? Is your objective really taking you where you want to go? Or will you wake up one day and realize you've been barking up the wrong tree? You see, life is only 4,000 weeks long on average. Now, for the majority of you sitting in here, I can tell you there's not 4,000 weeks left anymore. Right? If you're lucky, you will have 3,000. If you're unlucky on the lower end, maybe 500 to 1,000 weeks left. How quickly did last week go? Right? Do not waste your time barking up the wrong tree trying to chase false gods. That is my message to you. Get real about business. See, an entrepreneur is an artist. An entrepreneur is somebody who has vision. An entrepreneur is somebody who will willingly invest their last dollar into their business before they invest into food, if they have to, right? You see this, the starving artist syndrome. Most artists struggle, and only a few make it to the top. That is the reality of life as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, it just is, right? That is the reality. If you accept that and you embrace it, and then you figure out, well, even the artists, right? Even the successful artists, they still have agents, managers, galleries, they have a team around them, right? The musicians, they have a team around them. The ones that truly succeed are not the ones that do it alone. If you want to stay a starving artist as an entrepreneur who struggles and maybe makes the occasional sale, makes the occasional short-term win, then go ahead, keep doing it alone, keep chasing the dreams, keep chasing the short-term shiny objects. Right? Keep looking around to your neighbor and asking them how are they making money and trying to copy them. That is the short way to failure. If you want to, on the other hand, create a life worth living, create something of contribution, actually enjoy what you're doing, have passion with what you do, then start looking inside of yourself first, figure out what it is you want to achieve, and then start looking around you to find out what resources, what people you need to partner with to make that a reality, and then start asking the questions, where should I be and how can I monetize this? Because there will be an answer. There's always an answer if you ask a question. The trick is make sure you ask the right questions and in the right order. Is that time? Yeah. Okay. If you want any more information, go to fusiondojo.com and download a free copy of my book. I'll take questions, sure.
Yeah, we have time for just a couple questions, maybe 3 or 4. Anyone? You stand up and try to speak loud.
Hi. So you said you emphasize a lot of building a team. What do you look for people you're bringing on your team? How do you find a good team?
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so one of the problems I find is people's objections is I can't afford a good team, right? If you can't afford a good team, partner with people. You see even big companies will partner with each other, right? There's no shame in partnering. In fact, actually, a VC company said they would never invest in a single individual. They would only invest into partnerships because they know that single individuals more often fail than not by a vast margin, right? So your first step is to simply find somebody you can partner with that can share the skill set that you may be lacking, the majority skill set that you may be lacking. Where to find them? Come to events. If you're looking for a programmer, go to programming events. If you're looking for a designer, go to designing events. Hang out in design forums. You know, like don't hang out in a digital nomad group necessarily. If you're looking for somebody who's got a specific talent, it's not to say you can't find it, but if you went to a forum that was dedicated for that specific niche, you're far more likely to find somebody who's very passionate about that specific niche. And the other thing is, I moved to Thailand to build my team. Right? I'm not a big fan of outsourcing. I'll say that, and that's controversial straight up. But I did it for years. I'm not a big fan of it because you don't build the relationships or be able to develop the same kind of quality interactions. You don't get the same level of passion involved with your project by simply having people who are remotely disconnected from you and simply trying to focus on the paycheck. Like when you have somebody working with you, you can sit down, the progress is much, much faster. There's a much stronger bond, a much stronger dynamic, and people start to believe in the actual vision instead of feeling like they're simply some low-paid worker in a foreign country and don't care about you. So those are the 2 main answers to that. Long-winded, but.
Any more questions? Sorry.
What do you do yourself, and what do you delegate out to other people?
Okay, what do I do myself? What I do is what I enjoy. What I delegate is everything else. And, you know, that's true to a certain extent. Sometimes you still, like, there's another misconception is that people talk about if you want more money, figure out how much your time is worth, multiply that out, and if the hourly rate is anything less, you should be hiring somebody to do it. I think that's crap. Honestly, I don't know any entrepreneur that's really successful that sits down and that's an employee mindset. When you start thinking about dollars per hour, that is an employee mindset. When you're an entrepreneur, you want to focus on what you're passionate about, what you're amazingly good at. So focus on where your skills are and where your passions are, overlap. Read Good to Great, figure out the head job concept if you haven't, right? And then delegate everything else. And then eventually delegate even what you love to do if you want to really exit the business eventually.
One last question.
Why did you choose Thailand?
Good question. Okay, so like I said, I've lived in many countries. At one point, I became a Kiwi, lived in New Zealand for quite a while, was working with Mark Joyner, who was the first guy ever to sell an ebook, and I was director of marketing for him down there. And then decided that really it was time to start building my own business out. And so I left with a pile of cash in my bank, but how far is that going to go in New Zealand if you want to build a team? So where had good infrastructure, where had a decent cost of living, where I could afford to live, where I could afford to hire people to work for me, where I could afford to build an office and everything else, and somewhere that was decent climate, friendly, safe, blah, blah, blah. You've all been there. Chiang Mai ticks the majority of the boxes, almost better than anywhere else, so here I am.